out there. Hey, there's our guest.
What's up?
There he is.
Where's my camera?
It's you're that one over there.
That one?
Yes. So we got that one there. We got other ones I haven't completely fixed. Here's the wide shot.
Oh wow. Where's that?
That's back here.
Back there.
That's back here. So we can see if some drunks are knocking on the window.
Cool.
Like you can actually see the drunks now. That's the drunk cam.
I like that. I like that.
And I always like to kind of pull back and get a shot of the train, passing by or something.
Right. Is that a palm tree I see?
Las Palmas. Yeah. They put palm trees out front.
I like it.
They're really going all in with the name.
I feel like I'm in the tropics right now. Like, I never mind the snow on the cars, but I see palm trees in the side of my eye.
It was wild because the day they were doing it, like we're looking across the street and all of a sudden I took a video and put it on Twitter or something. Mm-hmm. You just see the top of a palm tree moving down the street. You don't see the people pushing it. And it's like on a dolly or something, right? And you're just like, what's that palm tree like just moving down the sidewalk? What's Yeah, it was at Christmas. It's
weird.
Like it was like snowing out, and we're just like, what the hell is happening right now?
Very weird.
I love our insane neighborhood. Just
right.
It is just a wonderfully insane neighborhood. I just double check and make sure we're streaming all the places we should be. I'm trying to find the stream on the Indy Wrestling Twitter. Okay. I don't see it for some reason. I might have to fix it some other time. Oh, we didn't take ourselves off the other stream. That's why. Oh. Hold on.
Pause. Technical difficulties.
Hold on. Well, you guys are here. It's just you're not there. And we got to do a thing to make you there. And I don't know what happened to my streaming platform. It's in a tab somewhere and it disappeared.
Uh-oh.
Man. Hello, everybody. Hello. I was going to say, I was going down names, and I was like, wait, though, that's you.
That's me?
What's up, Tina? What's up, Bronco?
How do I see who's all in the chat?
I see, like, people I'm friended with.
Oh, okay. Cool. I forget how this works. It's been a while.
We're going to have you on the main show more often.
I mean, people might get sick of me.
You never know. Hey, if we haven't kicked off Ronnie yet, I think you're going to be good to go.
Oh, Ronald.
Ronald F. Starks. Is it F?
I think so.
F and Starks? That seems like a thing he would do.
Right, yeah.
All right. Sorry to everybody over on the other streams that were right in the middle of watching Jack Pollock, Lee Moriarty, and Lewis the Nerd.
Oh, and you're going to do that to them? They're so disappointed.
Yeah, sorry about that. You're just going to get this guy.
Ouch. You know, I'm used to disappointing people, but man, you're really...
I like how you're just like, come on, that's better than this.
Right.
Whatever we're about to do, that's got to be better than that. I'm just confirming we're on the other streams, and we'll get going here. I could just kick the music for you. Here you go. There you go. Musical interlude, and we are back. That's how that works, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I'll bring this up as we get going. We might as well start. We are... Yeah, I'm going to restart audio. Video's a minute in. Boom. This is the Indy Mayhem show, correct? Is that what I booked you for?
I think so. Yeah.
Hey, you know, we do a lot here. Welcome to the Awesome Cast. It is the Indy Mayhem Show. I'm Mike Sorg at Sorgatron on the Twitter here in the wonderful Sorgatron Media Studios in Pittsburgh, PA, and we got a great guest with us, a returning guest, a catch up. It's been too long. We looked at the date on the last show appearance. It has been literally too long. But first of all, please check out everything at WrestlingMayhemShow.com, IndyWrestling.us, where you can find a lot of the past interviews, other podcasts, and a lot of people we talk with on this show. In particular, you can see in action over there at IndyWrestling.us, IndyWrestling.network. Of course, drop us a line if you have anybody you think we should be chatting with. Some people have been hitting me up about that. Or if you have any questions for our upcoming guests over at goodtimes@WrestlingMayhemShow.com or 412-206-WMS0, or hit us up on any of the social media at Mayhem Show on the Twitter, at US Indy Wrestling, or of course the Facebook pages for either of those properties too. All right, we have back with us in the studio. It has been a while, and I didn't realize we actually haven't had him. I see him so often, so I get the updates, and we haven't had the update on the show. So back with us in studio, Shawn Phoenix is joining us. How you doing, Shawn?
Doing well. How about you?
Welcome back to Beachview.
Thank you.
We have palm trees now.
Yeah, a lot has changed in a year.
A lot has changed in the year. You are no longer doing the pirate beard anymore.
Correct.
I noticed.
Yes.
Although that was an interesting direction.
That was an injury beard.
Yeah.
Legit. Like the last time I stopped shaving was the day that I got hurt. So I was like, well, you know what? I'm just gonna grow a beard until I can wrestle again.
You're not presenting yourself in the ring or anything, right? So,
exactly. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a couple appearances here and there at some promotions, but I mean, like, I wanted it to show like the passage of time. You know, and I hated it. I hated it. I'm not a beard.
Was that
guy.
your first like major beard that you've attempted?
Yeah, I usually have something like this because I have a butt chin that I don't like, so I try to hide it with this little stupid chin beard.
Those on audio, if you didn't see on the art, it's you have a little get goatee under goatee kind of thing going on. So and it works out well because it doesn't look like the Amish thing where you don't have the mustache. Like if I did that, I just look like, why has he got the Amish look going on? Right.
Right.
So like I say, you've been doing a lot. You're back. You're back in the ring. You've been in action. I think you came back in October. Is that correct?
November 2nd.
November 2nd. That's right. Excellent. So I want to get into that, but of course, we talked to you on this show officially shortly after. I think just a month after maybe initially. It was November. I think it was a couple weeks now.
I think your date might be wrong. I think it was like 2 weeks after. Like
yeah.
It was definitely before Halloween.
Yeah.
Because I randomly appeared on the Halloween show, so it was definitely before Halloween.
There was that too. You hung out with my mom.
Yeah. We gave out candy.
But so tell us a little bit about like you just to kind of I don't want to get too much into like what happened, but like because I think everybody who listens to the show probably knows by now. But like kind of tell us like what were you dealing with from that on that road to recovery.
Well, I probably spoke about it when the last time we spoke. The biggest issue was I'm a very like go get 'em type person. I can't relax, and so to have that stamp of like I couldn't drive, I couldn't lift anything heavier than a gallon of milk. I couldn't do anything, and then I couldn't get my energy out. So like I was up all night, like I couldn't sleep. Like I would literally like get up at 3 a.m. and just walk around my house just to like try to get this energy out. So it took about like 3 months until like that kind of went away. Like my sleep schedule was all messed up.
So you kind of like settled into your situation.
Yeah. And also like even the hospital, like I couldn't sleep in the hospital, so that probably started it. But it wasn't long after the actual accident that I started physical therapy for the concussion. And while I was in the hospital, they would check in on me periodically. I don't remember how frequently, maybe every 2 hours or 3 hours, whatever. But the entire time I was in the hospital, all the tests, like there was no real signs of a major concussion, which surprised me because if there ever was a time to like not know your name, it was the time that I got hurt right then and there.
And the way you got hurt, I mean, and again, look at the footage, like your head basically hit like not concrete, but like
gymnasium
floor.
Yeah. There was nothing that protected me, which I will get back into that, but that was the best thing that could have happened.
Really?
Which is really weird. So when I was on the stretcher, like I was like thinking like, okay, what's my name? What's today's date? So like from that point on, the moment like where I put up like my hand, like the rock on sign, like I pretty much knew what was going on from that point on. I just didn't know how I got to that situation. Like I didn't remember getting hurt or anything like that. So that I was kind of groggy, but you know, they're asking me in the helicopter, you know, what's your name? So I consider the moment where I got my wits about me, that started the recovery process.
Okay.
I was no longer injured per se. Like I was already on the process of recovering.
Okay.
It's a weird way to think about it, but so obviously that's not how it works. You know, like that was just the baby steps. But even when I was in the hospital, yeah, they were telling me like, you know, there was no real signs of a major concussion. They were going to potentially transfer me to Mercy to do inpatient physical therapy for the concussion, but I skipped that entirely. Mm-hmm. So I did have a concussion, obviously. I hit my head really hard. So I went to UPMC Sports Medicine down South Side, and I think I went maybe 3 times a week in addition to doing physical therapy at home.
And this is the place where like the Steelers go.
That's where anytime that's where Edge went to get cleared. Mm-hmm. That's where Daniel Bryan went to get cleared. Like that is I'm so fortunate that I live in Pittsburgh because I have the best in my backyard.
I think I was talking with somebody just the other day about you coming on the show and
right.
This same situation about how like if you're going to get hurt like this, Pittsburgh's like the best place to do it.
Right.
Like how fortunate of an injury location.
Not only that, but like I was also really fortunate because I travel a lot. And you know, if I got hurt in Tennessee, my family couldn't visit me as frequently as they did. My friends couldn't visit me.
How would you get back?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know? So I was very fortunate in a weird way to look at it that it happened in my backyard, in my home, you know, company. I was familiar with the area. I knew, you know, it was a 15-minute ride home once I had left. So it turns out that I said it was the best thing that could have happened to me because you look at the footage how I got hurt and it's really graphic. It's, you know, it is a miracle I survived. Like there's no doubt about that. But because the skull broke, that is the best thing that could have happened because the brain smacked onto the skull and it gave way and the force went through. Whereas if it didn't break, the brain would have smacked onto it and then, you know, just like driving straight onto a brick wall. You know, if there's no give to it, it's all, you know, within you. And then the brain probably would have got swollen and they probably would have needed to take out part of my skull anyway to relieve the pressure. So because of the fact that the skull broke, the concussion wasn't that bad, which is really crazy to think about. Now, granted, there were other issues. You know, I did have a subdural hematoma. I was leaking spinal fluid. So it wasn't, you know, it's not all like, oh, I got off lucky. But, you know, in the grand scheme of things, I consider myself very fortunate that the only, because, you know, the thing that scared me the most was the concussion aspect of it. You know, they're scary. This would have been my 3rd one. And I knew in the hospital that a broken bone can heal. I know that
we know how to deal with that versus a brain injury.
Yeah. Brain injuries are scary. And, you know, from what I was told, my brain stopped bleeding relatively shortly after I was first admitted to the hospital. The thing that kept me in the hospital as long as it did was actually the leaking spinal fluid, because they needed to make sure, like, once they inserted the catheter into my spine, it needed to pull it out, the spinal fluid that is, and then they needed it to be in there as long as I think like 3 days, and then they needed to feel comfortable removing it to see if the hole closed up, because if that didn't work, I would have needed brain surgery right there. So that's pretty much what kept me in the hospital as long as it did, which was only 6 days. It wasn't like once they removed the catheter, then I could start doing like exercises in the hospital to see how I did walking down the hall, walking up steps. So, but I kind of went off on a tangent. So I enrolled myself in the concussion protocol, and they confirmed that, you know, doing the impact test, it wasn't that bad. I've had worse concussions in the past. And that was, I mean, my most recent concussion, not including this one, I got in Cleveland doing a dive to the outside, which I now no longer do front flips. Now that I've realized my 2 injuries are front flips to the outside, like that's never going to happen again.
Okay.
I cracked my head off the back of my head off the floor, and I kind of knocked myself a little dazed. but I didn't knock myself out. I didn't have a brain bleed. But that concussion on paper was worse than this catastrophic injury.
Yeah.
So they were able to compare it like, oh, last year you were here. It's not that bad, but there is something that needs fixed. So I'll drop a bombshell, and I actually got cleared from the concussion doctor in January. The day before I stood in that Rise ring giving an update on my future.
This is January of 2019.
Yeah, I got cleared. I could have wrestled that day if I wanted to. However, that's just as far as doctors are concerned. I did say in the ring, I did, stretch the truth a little bit. And I said, whenever I'm cleared, I'm going to take some time to make sure everything is correct. I don't want to rush this, which is true. It just so happened I got cleared that day. Because
I think I remember you saying that backstage. I'm just like,
yeah.
What?
Right? But
What?
because the concussion wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
However, the thing that kept me out long was I was still dealing with some balance issues.
Yes.
And I was under the impression that once I got cleared up with the concussion, that everything would kind of be fixed because balance can be affected by a concussion. So it was a matter of, do I want to come back and punch and kick and, do the Hulk Hogan,
How about the Stone Cold? Because
right, stuff like that. Could I do that? Absolutely. But I didn't want to, and it wasn't even the fact that I was at more of a risk for getting injured. Like I said, I could wrestle if I want to, but as far as the caliber of match quality that I, have for myself, it wouldn't, live up to that. So I waited. Then it was a process of, a month went by and, hey, I'm still not, it wasn't so much vertigo as it was balance issues. So I went back to the concussion doctor. This would have been like February, and they gave me another impact test, and they said, okay, well, it's not concussion related. You didn't get another concussion. Great. What do I do now? So they said, well, it's probably ear related. I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Because you are, just to recap, you are now deaf.
I'm now completely deaf in the left ear.
Yeah.
It's doesn't sound like everything's underwater. Doesn't sound like everything's in a tunnel. It is like trying to hear with your hand. There is no sound. It is the strangest thing to wake up to, essentially. Is like the only reason why I know it should hear is because it did for 27 years. So, I went and saw the ear doctor that I had seen and did all the ear tests, and he was like, yeah, you're deaf in this ear. And I was like, yeah, I know that. This isn't a surprise to me.
Thank you for the confirmation.
Right. I was like, I'm here because I still feel like I'm going to lose my balance walking down the hallway. He said, oh, okay, well, in that case, you have to go see this doctor. So I had to schedule that appointment. And meanwhile, you never schedule a doctor's appointment. They never see you the next day. It's always like months from now. So let's say this was, May that I got that news that the earliest that doctor could see me was July. So like still a couple more months. So I went and got evaluated. And by the way, the type of exercises that I was doing for the concussion wasn't really too hard. It was like standing on a couch cushion with my arms across my chest and eyes closed. I had to put a cup behind me, there was a countertop, and I had to turn with my right, put the cup down, then turn to the left and grab it. Really simple stuff like that. Not difficult at all. But then, I got evaluated, ironically, at the same hospital that I was taken to when I got hurt. So, I was like, oh, there's that nurse that I know type of thing. It was a really crazy procedure. My appointment was at 7 a.m, and then they schedule a break. It's like a 3-hour process, and then they schedule a break. That way the doctor can see you that day, which is kind of cool. But I didn't realize that. And then after they do that process, you can't drive. So I had my buddy come with me, and they were like, yeah, it's going to be probably about 5 hours. So I was like, just come back and get me. Don't even wait. But it was really bizarre. It was a black room, and I sat down on a chair. They strapped me in, and there was a laser pointer. It was pitch black, and I could only see that red dot. And there were cameras on my eyes, and I had to it would jump to the right and it would jump to the left. And I had to focus on that. And then the chair would spin and I'd have to focus at like as the laser pointer spun as well. There was another part where there was a curved wall and I was in a harness and there was a metal floor and the wall would lean towards you or lean away, and that would really throw off your depth perception and your balance. And then like the thing you were standing on, that would like it would raise your heels, so like you would like fall over. Like I failed all these tests, by the way. Like they were like, yeah, you definitely have some issues here.
Sounds like some like astronaut test stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what I felt like. Then there was one where the wall was synchronized to what I was standing on. So like as I like was trying to balance, like the wall would get further, you know, like I was like, whoa, but you know, strapped in so I couldn't get hurt. But then there was one, they were like, well, let's see how you are underwater. I was like, what does that mean? So they put a balloon, like a small, like inflatable thing, like in my ear, and then like filled it up with water in my good ear to see like how that reacted. And then like at one point they had to put warm water in the balloon, and then they drained it and immediately put freezing cold water in, and that hurt. I was like, but when they put it in my right ear, my good one, that felt like I was underwater. It was the strangest thing. Like I'm laying down on a table and I felt like I was floating in water. It was the most bizarre experience. So all of a sudden done, you know, I go on my lunch break or whatever. I come back and they're like, the doctor's like, yeah, you know, you're pretty messed up. Yeah.
Thanks, doc.
Like, yeah. And he was like, you know, he said, well, at this point I got some answers. I'm like, why is this not doing any better? And he said, well, normally, or the best way to explain it is balance is made up of three things. The surface, like where we stand on, our eyes, and the inner ear. So they determined that my balance was really bad in the dark and on uneven surfaces. So we're taking away the eyes in the dark, and we're taking away the solid surface with the uneven surface, leaving just my inner ear. Now, if you think of it like a tripod, you take away two strong legs, and you're relying on that one, it's going to be bad. Which it was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. The issue was, normally the brain realizes, hey, this left inner ear is done. We need to focus on the right, and it can adapt. Mine wasn't doing that. And there were a couple in this case, you know, if you're an 80-year-old woman or 80-year-old man, I don't know why I said woman. I'm definitely not an 80-year-old woman or man. Yeah, your brain may not adjust to that. You've lived a long life. It's going to be hard. Or if you're on certain medications, which I wasn't. So then the thought process was, well, no matter how my inner ear could be 98% dead, but because 2% of life there, it's not, you know, recognizing it as completely done. It's saying there's still life there. You've made all this improvement, everything else. This can come back, which unfortunately doesn't do that. So we had a couple options. One being I could have got surgery to destroy the inner ear to kickstart the brain focusing on the right, or do physical therapy. And I was like, well, absolutely, I'm going to do physical therapy. One of the reasons I would have had a quick turnaround with the surgery, obviously, but I'm 28 years old. With modern medicine improving the rate that it is, 25 years from now, there could be a new, you know, implant for $20 that everyone can get and fix your balance. But if I destroyed my inner ear, I would be SOL.
Yeah, there'd be no comeback from that.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, you know, I want to feel better. So it took me about a month to get enrolled in physical therapy for the balance, and the exercises weren't completely, you know, too different from the concussion stuff. Like there was one where like they had steps, and I would have to stand on a cushion, and then with my eyes closed, step up onto the step with my left foot, and then onto the right foot, and then back down onto the cushion with my eyes closed. We were taking away the solid surface and the eyes, so we were relying on the bad inner ear and trying to strengthen it. So, like, it was a challenge, but, like, it wasn't too hard, all things considered. until I started to get good at the easy stuff. Then it was like I needed to, with my eyes closed, jump. If you're on a clock in the middle of the clock, your eyes are closed. You have to jump to 1 o'clock and land on your right foot, and then that resets. So like you're back in the middle. Then you have to jump to 11 and land on your left foot, all with your eyes closed down a hallway. Jeez. That was pretty difficult, and I definitely hit the wall a couple times just because of overestimating my trajectory. There were times where I'd have to run and just stop, and fortunately, I was able to do some of the exercises in the ring too. Like they'd never worked with a professional wrestler before, so they were like, could you do something like this? So one of the exercises I did was I would hit one rope and then in the center of the ring do a 360 and continue running, which is something you would never do in a pro wrestling match.
No.
But it really throws off your whole, equilibrium.
And it's kind of also you're kind of reacquainting with the space.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. I was literally learning how to run the ropes again. Where in the hospital, I had to essentially, when I was first in the hospital, I had to learn how to walk again now that my balance was all messed up. And then in the process of a year, I was in the ring learning how to run the ropes making it as difficult as I could. And I actually got cleared very quickly. They said probably spring in 2020, which, as you and I and anyone listening right now knows, it is not even spring yet. But with the amount of stuff that I was doing extra that other patients can't do, that day got a lot sooner, and it was a surprise when I was told, okay, you probably only have one more appointment and you're good. And I was like, are you kidding me? This was in September. I was like, oh my God. So I immediately messaged Mr. Plummer, and I was like, it's happening a lot sooner than I realized. Let's do something about this. And this would have been early September. So I believe by that time, the show was pretty much booked. So I was like, well, I don't think it was completely, maybe it was late August. I was like, well, I can either do this in September or the storybook ending and have my first appearance legitimately 1 year after the accident.
Yeah, at the very same show.
Yeah, and I was like, I've waited this long. What's one more month? So, and then my buddy was like, hey, you're invited to my wedding, by the way. It's October 5th. I was like, oh my God. How am I going to do this? So I legitimately, I believe that day was wake up, do a Pokemon Go event. There was a thing going on, which was in hindsight, I laugh about it, but that actually kept me really calm because it kept me. Had I been at home, just waiting, the excitement would have really messed with me. Or that kept me occupied. Then I drove back home, changed, went to the wedding, which was about 45 minutes away. Saw that, was there for the wedding, and then left after, right before the reception, and then zoomed to court time and got there, probably about 3 matches after showtime. So it was really down to a wire, but I did it, and that was an amazing feeling because I always knew that I was going to come back. I never put any thought into when, because, even the doctors at the time, they weren't sure, so to speak. Yeah, we're not sure why you're still dealing with this or whatever. So I was like, well, you know what? I'm just going to focus on making, every improvement I can. And then when that day comes, it'll come. I never expected it to be as soon as it was. And wow. After my surprise appearance at Unbreakable, I have no shame in admitting I went to the back and just broke down crying. I didn't even wrestle. It was just the fact that I was starting the comeback, and I broke down, and that's going to be something I never forget, is that feeling. So
that's awesome. So, and again, I've seen you, I think now 4 matches back in the stuff that we're doing, and so you're talking a little bit before. There's a little bit of change to your style,
right?
Is it back to feeling like you're where you were before otherwise, or you're still working through something?
I definitely noticed ring rust within myself. A lot of timing. stuff doesn't look as crisp as I would like it to. And that's just because, like, within professional wrestling, you kind of develop a rhythm. And I don't want to say before my accident I was making a name for myself or, getting people's attention or anything like that. But I felt like I was starting to find my voice and catch a rhythm. I was wrestling 2 times a weekend, sometimes 3 times a weekend, every weekend. And that was gone. So even while I was still involved with professional wrestling, still going to shows, sitting on the sideline, picking people's brains, it's complete, like it's a reaction thing and you don't realize it until you haven't done it for a year plus. Like even practice matches and stuff, like I'm still not where I want to be. So I noticed that, and unfortunately the only way to get that back is to wrestle as, frequently. But I mean, there's nothing I can do at home. But also a little bit of PTSD climbing to the top rope, which I probably should have tested that before I came back, because like I told you, the first thing I did once I got out of the hospital was get back into the ring.
Yeah.
And I had no issues with that. But there was even a time where I even debated having a couple practice matches before the return, because I wanted everything to feel genuine, when a lot of some of the stuff that I said hadn't been genuine. Like when I said like, oh, I don't know when I'm going to wrestle again, the day after I was told I could wrestle again, I felt like, well, if I was not genuine with this, let's make this a little bit more genuine. That way the first match you see is the first time I was in the ring. But I decided it was probably for the best to, do a couple practice matches. It'd be stupid not to. But at that time, I don't think, by the time I was doing those practice matches, I don't think I was doing the physical therapy for the balance. So I avoided going to the top rope. In hindsight, I try not to regret anything. I probably should have, done that, once or twice. It just, I know it'll go away, because I actually almost died at a concert before I was a pro wrestler.
I think we talked about this
before.
before.
I got trampled on at a concert.
Yeah.
And I couldn't breathe, and I sleep on my chest with my head under the pillow. And for the first couple of weeks after that incident, that freaked me out. That sensation of being on my chest with my head under, it reminded me of being trapped under bodies. But all it takes is a simple, change of position, and that went away. Where in matches, I climbed to the top rope thinking, okay, I can do it this time. And it's like, oh no, do I really want to be up here? If this happens, what if I'm gone another year? So I get off the top rope, which really sucks to say that I have this weakness, this fear, because I try to be so fearless, but I also try to learn about, from the accident, risk versus reward. It'll happen eventually, trying to work on it, but
not pushing it.
Not pushing it, no.
That's good. Yeah. I noticed there's been more tag team action lately. I was happy to see the Keystone State Dude Corps come back.
Yes.
With Ziggy.
Yes. Very fun. Like I love doing that, because she's one of my best friends. Like I have so many friends in pro wrestling, as I'm sure you saw from the benefit show we did, which we didn't even talk about yet. I'm so fortunate to consider so many good people my friends, and I'm a goofy guy by nature, but we were talking about this last show where the last time we teamed together, I get to relax a bit. It's not so much me and my opponent. It's me and my tag partner. So it's not like, it's fun. I have a lot of fun. So I think the first thing I did when I got into the ring at this last show was I yelled, "The XFL is back." Why I did that, I don't know. I
didn't catch that.
Yeah,
I just edited this match today, and I didn't catch that.
I said, "The XFL's back," and everyone went, "Yay!" And I was like, I don't know why I said that.
Even I think last month you guys did a Harley Quinn and Joker walkout.
Yeah, that was just something. Well, like we were talking, because
I'm just like, it's not Halloween.
No, okay. So I threw out an open challenge for the Rise anniversary show. Marcus Mann and I talked about this. I legitimately had never wrestled on an anniversary show, but we wanted that to be my first match back at Rise. That felt special, so it became, okay, who do you want to wrestle? Everyone on, they've been wrestling for so long that, they have established, stories and stuff like that. So it's like, oh, well, this guy's already wrestling this guy and this one. So I started reaching out to a couple of my friends, and the plan was me and Alex Zane. And he's someone who has completely taken off in pro wrestling. He's one of my best friends. He spent holidays at my house.
And he was on the benefit show.
He was on my benefit show. He came to my graduation. He's legitimately one of my best friends. So that was the plan. However, he's so good at professional wrestling that he got invited to do a tour in Japan. So I was like, okay, rats. So I went to the drawing board, and I was like, all right, well, what about this guy? And like, oh, I'm already booked this day. So I was like, hey, Marcus, you know what? You do what what you think is best. I was like, if you want me to wrestle a rookie from Uprise, cool, I'll do that. Like, I just want to wrestle. So then the idea came, how about your tag partner? And I was like, yes, let's do it. Some WrestleMania 21, Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio. Let's do it. But I hadn't wrestled for a year, and there had been some new fans. And I didn't want them to think, if they came to the next show, that me, Ziggy, and I hate each other. We are legitimately friends. So we wanted to team together the next show. But I was like, well, let's do something that shows that we are really on the same page. We're not a throw together tag team. How we decided on Joker and Harley Quinn, I don't know. We just happened to, I've only cosplayed like 3 times in my life, and each time they've been for a professional wrestling company for a show. And ironically, a lot of them have been DC villains. Just, like my brother's in the cosplay. So the first time it was for Mega Championship Wrestling at Colossal Con, I wore his Riddler outfit. Then I was, what's his name? From Suicide Squad, El Diablo. Mm-hmm. And he is the fire guy. And now I've been Joker. So I've a lot of DC villains. Why? I don't know. I'm not a big comic book guy. Just so happens. I also did Joaquin Phoenix's Joker the day after they showed his first makeup at welterweight wrestling when I teamed with Alex Jordan. It was like legitimately the next day. I was like, well, Alex Jordan and I paint our face, and Joaquin Phoenix we just got the first look at this Joker. His last name is Phoenix. My last name is Phoenix. I was like, if there's ever a time to do this before anyone else does, it's right now.
I think I was there for that one.
You probably were.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we just wanted to do that just to show people that we are on the same page that aren't familiar with us. And then we got talking. It was really fun to do that. I think I bought that tie on the way down to Rise, which that was pretty, cutting it close. But we have a couple ideas for a future, a couple more cosplays we want to do. We don't want to do it all the time. Mm-hmm. You never know when it's going to happen. Just keep it fresh.
Mix it up a little bit.
Exactly.
That's awesome. I do want to touch on, we do have a lot of people asking questions in the chat room, and I know you had a lot that people submitted here before the show on one of your posts as well. First of all, Johnny Garcia's hanging out in the chat rooms, has been listening to the whole interview. Proud of you for making the comeback. Please stay safe.
Love Johnny Garcia. Him and I go way back to when I was 13, wrestling on a trampoline. I probably talked about this before, the backyard wrestling days. We would be on message boards, and then we would post shows, highlight videos, and then people that had some training would chip in, be like, hey, when you tie up, you grab the neck with the left arm, not the right, that type of thing. And then it became a bragging right type of thing where oh, look, our shows are better than your shows. And then we would travel across states to do it. And Johnny, it was really weird how my life turned out, because Johnny was in a video that I saw when I was going into my freshman year of high school. This wrestling company, they had a ring base, and all the matches were really good. It didn't have ropes, but it was the first time I'd seen that. And I noticed they had a huge crowd, and I was like, oh my God, we can't even get our real friends from school to come to see us. And then I would watch this video. It was a 15-minute video, had 5 songs. I watched this video so often that by the time my freshman year started, I would catch myself humming the songs in my head, walking class to class. Fast forward to the next year, I'm meeting these guys and wrestling these guys, and that gave me a huge, leg up on, my confidence, my, desire for wrestling.
And this is still in the backyard.
Yeah, I was 15. 15 traveling across. Is that? I thought I knew. I was 15 traveling to Eastern PA 3 hours to do it out of love.
Wow.
Wrestling strangers that we chatted online.
And I think, as a kickback, because I think you're coming out of that era. Like, I remember the old backyard wrestling tapes where that's where we saw Josh Prohibition and M-Dog,
yes.
right?
Yeah,
so, I mean, this was like kind of a whole subculture thing.
Right.
And I don't know how many people I've heard of that became wrestlers in the late 2000s that were like, oh, and of course we were backyard wrestling.
Right, yeah. That. And, like, backyard wrestling used to have a stigma to it where, like, a lot of people thought it was, hitting each other with light tubes and just garbage wrestling.
Sure was sometimes.
Right, yeah. Where in my generation, we wanted to have fun. Mm-hmm. And, like, there were times where I would go to shows, like, even after I was done backyarding, just to go and hang out with people. Like, there was one time in New York, or a couple times, it was in a field in the middle of nowhere, and we all put up tents, and, like, my buddy brought out his DJ equipment. We barbecued. There was a creek. It was legit. Like, I got chills now talking about it. It was so much fun. Like, we were weekend warriors doing it for love and to hang out, and, like, we were partying. Yeah, like, and then, like, I hear people say, like, oh, man, yeah, I used to watch you, from backyarding days. And I'm like, that's so weird to me because I still was that kid watching that 15-minute music video. And then, like, I did it for so long, and I got to wrestle those guys like Johnny and, really, I don't want to say improve because obviously, like a backyard, how much can you know? But to move up the ladder, so to speak. And my whole mentality in the backyard era was everything I do in backyard wrestling was to prepare me for pro. So, like, that's where I taught myself how to breathe fire. That's where I started dyeing my hair red. That's where I started doing the somersault, moonsault variation.
You were trying the stuff out
yes.
in an environment for
because
it before.
I found out the people that were watching that video, those were all the wrestlers that were all there. So if you could impress the fellow wrestlers, you could impress fans. That was my mentality. So, I have no regrets about backyard wrestling. It shaped me to who I am. I wish I didn't do it as long as I did, but everything happens for a reason. I've got nothing for love for Johnny. We spent a whole weekend in Florida. He's from New York. I'm from PA. I was 16. We had a blast. That man can snore, though.
We got Zerker in the chat room. They're asking, and I know you partially answered this, if there's any expansion on this, is there any movie you're tentative to do since coming back? You talked about the front flips.
Yeah, it's just mainly going to the top rope. That'll come in time. I do have a new finisher. I have two new finishing maneuvers that I can do that I don't need to go to the top rope, so I have those in my back pocket, which is nice. Eventually, like I believe I told you when the first time I chat, I don't want to be that guy that's like, oh, he can't do that anymore. I will if I have to, but I know that I can do it. It's just a mental game, not physical. Yeah. So I will get there. So Zerker's my boy too. We met at a party.
I see Max is out there. Zaleski.
Max
says, "What's up?"
My boy from he says Seattle, but it's not Seattle. I think it's Tacoma, Washington. He is the promoter for WAC Without a Cause Wrestling. I saw that one of my questions were how did I get the connection to Wrestle for 3-2-1 Battle? So I'll segue into that. I have a lot of friends in Seattle. Ironically through backyard wrestling. Like a lot of my friends did what I did. They got trained and, went pro. So, I reached out and I was like, hey, do you guys have any openings? And I went out there for a weekend and I realized there was a Pokemon Go community event. One day I was there and I was like, oh, I really want to do this to get a shiny. I think it was Charmander. And Max, who I didn't know at that time, was like, hey, if you want, like, we'll go to a park. I'll take you to a park and we'll go try and catch this Charmander. And we bonded really quickly over that. We spent about 3 hours in the park just walking in circles around this beautiful lake. There were so many people. There had to be about 200 people all playing Pokemon Go. It was beautiful weather. Then we hung out. We went to his place, watched Deadpool. Then he started this promotion, WAC, which I actually went to, I want to say maybe a month after my accident just to hang out. Because, like, I was supposed to go back to wrestle for them, but obviously I got hurt. And they said, hey, just still come and hang out. So I did that. And Max was nice enough to give me the time to address my accident. It was the first promoter that did that.
Which is wild because it was, not in the Pittsburgh area, in the Seattle area.
And nobody knew me at that time. My accident hadn't gone viral. We released the accident in December. I never wrestled it for WAC. It was their second show, but Max was so nice that he let me do that. And, it really prepared me to, because a couple of promotions let me do that, just to give updates. So I wouldn't say that I had nerves doing it, but, it's an emotional thing to talk about. And it made it a little bit easier to do that in front of a crowd that didn't know me from a hole in the wall. But they cared enough about me as a person to come up to me and talk to me during intermission, which meant the world to me. So Max is the man. He's a brother to me. He's also responsible for wrestling with subtitles.
Yes, we interviewed him maybe on this show.
Yeah.
Back when he was doing that campaign.
Yeah. Good guy. Ironically, little do I know, now I would end up needing subtitles.
There you go.
Everything happens.
Now you're like, damn it. Thank you, Max.
Right.
A lot of people calling. A lot of your friends from the Yarder days are popping up.
Yeah, who's that? Let's drop some
First,
names.
Max says, how dare you say I'm from Tacoma. We got Cody out there. Kentucky misses you.
Okay.
And I saw a couple other popping up in here. We'll get to those. We got, Lisa, you mentioned the Joker.
Yes.
Looks like you had a Heath Ledger Joker when you were at Rise last month.
It's funny because the idea for that was we were going to do Arkham. The Arkham. I guess she did a Harley Quinn cosplay before and had the Harley Quinn corset from the Arkham Asylum video game era. So I was like, okay, well, let's do that. And then I was looking into it and I was like, he doesn't really have long hair. I just did a Joker. It wasn't really a Joker I was specifically channeling. But yeah, if you want to say Heath Ledger, yeah, let's go with that.
What do you which is your favorite Joker?
Good question.
One of the questions that was passed along.
That was a question that I received. I like them all, believe it or not, which is a terrible answer. I even like Jared Leto's Joker, and I can tell right now there's going to be numbers dropping. Everyone's clicking out right now. I respect Jared Leto's Joker a lot because it was the first Joker we got after Heath Ledger. And obviously Heath did an incredible job, so he had to do something different. He had to. Anything, even Joaquin Phoenix's is very similar to Heath Ledger's, I feel, in a way.
It was nice that it was like more crime boss.
Right, yeah. I like that. That was really cool because it was a completely different spin. I honestly wish there was more Joker in Suicide Squad. Him and Batman were my favorite parts of that movie. I liked it. I thought it was different. It was, it's a risk. But Heath is great. I really like Joaquin Phoenix's. I just watched Joker for the first time a couple weeks ago, and throughout it, I'm telling myself, this is a Joker movie. You could title this movie anything, and this movie would be fantastic. The fact that this is a Joker origin, it was great. I knew he would do good. He really caught my attention, he being Joaquin Phoenix, whenever he went on David Letterman in 2008. Do you remember that, with that interview? He had the big beard. And that caught my attention. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's crazy. Well, then I ended up watching the movie that he was promoting, I'm Not There, or I'm Still Here, or something like that. And that was all method acting. And that interview was the ending to that character. And so watching, I'm like, wow, he can really become this character. He's a crazy method actor. He was great in Walk the Line, So when I heard that they announced him as Joker, I was all in. I was like, it's going to be fantastic. Mark Hamill, great Joker for the cartoon series and even the Arkham. Man, I'm not really a big comic book guy. So I don't, they're all great. They all have different traits. Cesar Romero for the fact that he didn't shave his mustache for the makeup. Mad respect there. Man, if I had to pick, it'd probably be Heath, because that was, I feel like everyone's going to say Heath Ledger, but that was during my, coming of age, so to speak. That was, when Jack Nicholson was Joker, I was just a kid. When Joaquin Phoenix was Joker, I'm a man, but I was a teenager, and that was, I could really respect it more. And the parallels between him and Brandon Lee with The Crow, and obviously both dying, making it, never seeing it, and that's now the movie that they're known for. It's a shame what happened to both of them, but yeah, I'll go with Heath. What about you?
Me?
Yeah.
I like them all.
Right? It's hard to choose.
No, if I chose, it's Mark Hamill's kind of the
Did you know
key one.
You can't spell Arkham, or you can't spell Mark Hamill without Arkham in the middle.
Huh.
ARKHAMIL.
I hear too much Joker in his Star Wars
Yeah.
roles lately, these days. like him coming back. I was just like, why does Luke sound like Joker?
Right.
Anyways, let's see. Let's pick through a couple of these here. Of course, people asking about what's coming up here. It looks like you're heading to what is coming up for you? It's like
This Saturday, I'm headed to SWO, Red Lion, PA. They're a fun promotion. Their fan base is unlike any fan base I work in front of. They respect wrestling, but like they're not like super indie fans, you know, like they're so much fun to perform for. I am challenging Leo Sweet for the championship. He cost me my Uprising championship. I'm a 2-time Uprising champion. I am challenging him for his title now because he got involved in my business. So top belt coming my way, gold in 2020. I can feel it. Then after that, this is very unprofessional of me, but I need to check my calendar.
But generally, you're popping up in Rise, of course.
Yeah, you know, like I don't want to sound ungrateful, but I feel like I'm stuck in Pennsylvania at the moment.
Yeah.
Being away from pro wrestling, I didn't realize how much that would, for that year. I didn't realize how much that affects it. You know, like I can't go to a show out in wherever and be like, hey, like. Are you guys running this day, networking and stuff that.
Yeah.
So as of right now, like I'm kind of just in Pennsylvania, which is great.
But you're kind of restarting, rebooting that networking.
Right. I'm learning how to run the ropes again, I'm not upset, but like it bugs me because of how frequently I traveled, and I love traveling to other states. I love traveling all over. So it bugs me in that aspect, but I am very fortunate that, I am still able to wrestle almost every weekend. Then after that, it's IWC, Super Indie Championships coming back home. The 29th, if I don't find a booking, I might jump into a pool of cold water for the Pittsburgh Polar Bear Plunge. So I really want to find a booking.
Have you done that before?
I've never. I hate the cold.
I did about 3 or so years of it on New Year's Day.
Yeah. It usually was New Year's Day. Didn't you jump in the river?
Yeah, that was in the river off the Mon Wharf.
Yeah, now they're doing it in pools.
Yeah, that's wimps.
Yeah.
Wimps.
But I hate winter so much. I hate the
It was
cold.
dangerous as fuck, don't get me wrong.
You dropped the F-bomb.
The thing that I did, it was not smart, but there was like 1,000 people doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am pretty fortunate that, like my calendar is full. Eventually I'm going to be headed back to Chicago in April. That's going to be fun. Headed to North Carolina in May. So we're getting there. Getting there. So
your dance card will be full by the end of the year, I'm sure.
I really hope so.
So I want to alter the usual end question here a little bit and actually borrow one from our other show. What did you learn from this time off? What's the biggest lesson out of this for you?
Definitely risk versus reward. For so long I felt invincible. I know unbreakable is my thing, but I legitimately felt invincible in the fact that, like, other than nearly dying at a concert, I've been very fortunate in life. I've broken bones here and there. But my mom, first of all, is a mother, so she worries, but she's also a retired paramedic. So she's the type of woman to be like, hey, make sure you put your seatbelt on. I'm like, Mom, I'm 28 years old. Like, you don't have to tell me. Like, I know it's dangerous. Or, it's lightning. There's a thunderstorm. You better come inside. Like, I get it. It's possible to get struck by lightning, but the chances of it happening are very slim to none. But that doesn't matter to her, because if there is a chance, that means it will happen. So for so long, I've always, like, it's not a big deal. I'll be okay. And fortunately, I've been right. I've traveled during snowstorms that I was told I shouldn't travel in, and nothing happened. I've traveled on wet roads where I told it's slippery out, and nothing's happened. This was a wake-up call that, there is a chance where you play with fire too many times, you will get burned. Completely pun intended. So I realized that, but also, like, it enabled me to because I've been involved in wrestling since I was 13 in some form, whether it be backyarding or professional. That entire time, it's always been brainstorming for what can I do in this next match, or what can I do, today type thing in this match, where I haven't been just a fan since, over how many years. But so it enabled, I was able to watch it, but also I now know professional wrestling. I know psychology and stuff like that. So I really got to study. And it was studying and studying, not studying to apply for the next match. It was, I'm going to take all this in and really take it in. And whenever I can use it, I will, but just take notes the entire time.
So just a step back and absorb.
Yeah. And that was huge. Now, have I been able to use everything that I've picked up? No, because, when you're out there, adrenaline's running and you've got a million things to think about. But a lot of the stuff that I've, picked up on, there's been times where, I've gone to shows with friends and, Jimmy Rave was at the show. So I sat right next to him and said, hey, man, let's talk. Let me pick your brain. So I have huge respect for Jimmy Rave for letting me do that. He could have told me to, piss off. I was able to go to seminars during it too. Chris Hamrick, Ricky Steamboat, Mike Quackenbush, not necessarily in ring, but just to listen and pick their brains and really listen and not worry about, well, how will this look? How will this make me look today? Or it doesn't really work today. It's, okay, I see what you're talking about. That makes sense. I have X amount of days to think about applying this to my craft now, rather than rushing, bang, 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 this needs to happen right now, and not getting it. So I've really learned a lot about that, and I don't regret it for that aspect, because I think I needed a wake up call, and I think I needed to grow as a performer, and I was able to get both of those things. But yeah, I definitely learned not to do it again.
Excellent. Shawn, it's been so good to catch up with you here.
Likewise.
A lot of people showed up in the chat room here, and I encourage you to go back through and say hi to some of them personally. And of course, you can see we have a lot of you in action, including a lot of the new matches over on the Indie Wrestling Network, including the Rise from this past weekend, which I, literally just edited today. So that'll be up in the next day or two. Please, where can people follow you if they're new to your story and want to see what's going on? I want to ask you a question.
I'm constantly on social media. It was a escape for me during my time off. I'm on Twitter, Instagram. I'm on Snapchat, which I don't really use. I'm on TikTok now because I was talking to someone.
Yeah, I've been playing with TikTok a little bit too.
My username is always the same. It's X before Shawn, X before Phoenix. So in total, there's 3 X's, but there is not one after Phoenix.
Shawn Phoenix Triple X?
Yes, which was, once again, my AOL Instant Messenger screen name. I've had that name that long. My Facebook is now at the point now where, because I went viral, I'm very close to my friends limit. So if you send me, that is my Facebook link. If you send me a friend request, I will redirect you to my fan page, my like page. Just because there isn't a limit there, but I try to share everything. I have like 50 spaces left. That's left for like promoters and other wrestlers. But yeah, X Shawn, X Phoenix. I'm sure you could Google me, as cocky as that sounds. I'm sure you'll find me. Pro Wrestling Tees, X Shawn, X Phoenix. That helps out a lot more than people realize. I don't even have to lift a finger, and I make money selling a T-shirt. That helped me out tremendously.
Great service those guys do up there.
What's that?
Great service those guys do up there.
Yes, and I know a lot of the people that work for them, so I'm very fortunate that I can just message them and be like, hey, man, a little bit of an issue with that. So anytime I'm in Chicago, I stop and say hello.
Good.
But yeah, anybody that ever, I've run into people saying, I don't really want to buy that because I know you don't make as much, but, literally anything helps out independent wrestlers.
Absolutely.
So even if it's, $2, that helps us out, so...
Go check it out. See when he's coming to your town. And thank you so much, Shawn.
Thank
and
you.
Everybody in the chat room, thank you for popping in here. We got a lot of stuff we're planning out. So we don't have any weeks off while I start traveling the world here this spring. So if you have anybody we should be talking to, again, drop us a line. We want to fill these out, so we make sure you guys get one every week here. And stay tuned. You never know when we're going to pop up. I actually got one. Might have a surprise one tomorrow popping into the studio that we haven't really announced yet.
It's Kane.
Yeah, it's not Kane. No, it's not Kane. Not this time. We'll still work on Mayor Kane. Thank you so much. Until next time, please support indie wrestling. All right. Oh, that's you. That's
cool.
me. Is that it? Hey, guys. All right. You guys are on the stream, so I can give you a secret right now. PD Smooth is scheduled to be popping into the studio sometime tomorrow. I don't know when. That's why there's no story. There's no event or anything for it. So, but no, we're going to be talking about his. He did the scholarship up there.
Oh, good.
I don't know if you heard. So you're getting a twofer this week on the streams, and maybe more next Wednesday too.
Oh.
We already have one, but I'm trying to fill that out too. All right, stream. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.